What are the cycles fathers pass down that sons are left to heal? What if being a man wasn't about holding it all together, but learning how to let go? This is a space where men speak truth and find the power to heal and transform. I'm Mike Della Rocha. Welcome to Sacred Lessons.
Some relationships feel like mirrors, divine timing. Connections weave together in some other dimension for a purpose unknown, yet known. Welcome to Sacred Lessons. I'm Mike Della Rocha, and I'm honored to sit with my brother, Selema Masekela, a voice you know from the X Games, a snowboarder, skater, and a surfer who's opening doors for people of color in action sports, and a storyteller who honors his African roots in everything that he does. I was extremely privileged to share the stage with Selema at the Outside Festival on a panel discussing masculinity. It was one of the highlights of my Sacred Lessons book tour last year. A rare moment of two men sharing genuine tenderness, vulnerability, and truth. My brother, thank you. This is like a newer relationship, but I felt like a kindred spirit from day one.
Yeah, it's new old.
It's new, yeah, it's like ancient.
Yeah, it's new old.
And our time at the Outside Festival was the beginning of a new life for me and a new career, because my book hadn't come out and I was trying to figure out like, where's my space? And when we were on that panel in that moment talking about our fathers and sons, that's where I was like, oh, that's kind of what I want to do. That's the next chapter of my life. But the thing before we jump into it, what I really want to honor was a few weeks ago, I was with my mentor, my second father, Tim Nubaini, Black South African man, who, like your father, played a big role in the anti-apartheid movement. And we called you.
Yeah.
And when you spoke Zulu to him,
I just kicked a couple of words.
It didn't matter because he smiled so big. And I had called you after I had taken him to buy the book for him. And when you see your father their body starts to decay and break down. When I went to pick him up, he came out in a shopping cart because he had a second stroke on the way here.
Oh.
And I was holding him, like walking. It was such a tender moment when it was like, he did that physically and like spiritually for me when I first met him at 17. And then when he talked to you, it was like full circle. The elder becomes the child, becomes the baby, but he was pure love. And he was like, I want to meet him, with his thick South African voice. So I just want to say, thank you for giving me that moment with him. Thank you for being the person that you are. I've known you before I've known you. And I've always just been so like, man, there's someone that I could be in the action sports world. Like, it doesn't have to be all white. It can be all shades and everything else. So thank you for even deciding to come on. Thank you for your life and everything. And so I'm super excited for this conversation.
Oh man, that means a lot, man. It really does, Mike. I remember when they asked me to do the panel at Outside and they told me it was going to be with you, they started telling me your story. And obviously I heard De La Roca, and I was like, I wonder if he's related to Zach at all, because I know Zach from surfing. We went to Fiji together years ago. And but as they were telling me your story, I was just like, oh, well, Mike's on his own. Like, yes, that's his cousin, but Mike's on his own. And yeah, when we first met, when we first talked, I was just like, oh, just felt like somebody that I'd known for a long time. Like the frequency, you know what I mean? Like the energetic frequency where you don't have to explain that you're different. Like your difference is common. And it's hard, I think, sometimes to feel a commonality in choosing to be your entire self, and knowing that your entire self also renders you on paper as different. So getting to know you, learning your story, and then obviously being able to sit on that panel, it's just really powerful. So, of course, when you say come through, let's sit and chop it up. It's easy for me. It's easy for me to drive to the valley for the people I like. Only for people.
Only. I appreciate, and I received that fully. Well, let me just, before we jump in, there's so much I want to talk about, but for those that don't know your story, what's the condensed version?
Oof, man. I mean, there's angles to it. I mean, I think what people obviously know me for the most is my voice within the action sports community. Right? I've been a commentator of surfing, snowboarding, skateboarding, freeride, mountain biking, freestyle motocross for 25 years. You notice how I take the deep breath? When you get up to the 5th floor and you start being able to say things in decades. Because I remember when I was young and you hear people be like, yeah, we've been friends for 20 years. You're like, God, you guys are older than dirt. And now you're that dirt. But yeah, 25 years. And action sports has played a really massive role in my professional life, but also personally. I grew up in New York City, the son of a jazz musician and my mother was a holistic health practitioner way before it was cool, and before it was on TikTok. And I grew up in and around the arts in New York. So I knew nothing about the action sports world other than like building jumps behind my buildings with like, old pieces of wood and cement from construction sites and being like, all right, like let's jump a bike. But it wasn't until my mother and stepfather moved to Southern California, to Carlsbad, when I was 16, that I discovered this world that I had to like figure out by default. I had no desire to be in California, where these kids were 99.9% white and then Mexican kids, and there were like 2 other black kids in my whole school. And the school was literally based around like, you were cooler if you skated and if you surfed than if you were the quarterback on the football team. Like the best surfer in school
was the most popular kid.
Was the Rizzler. That was the dude who had the girls, etc. Was the best surfer in school, not the quarterback. And surfing to me, when I saw it, it looked like breakdancing on water. There was like a rhythmic sort of b-boy dance element, and I was watching dudes on waves, and it looked like they're one-upping each other in the same way you would in a battle. And I was like, I could get down with that. Like I saw it from a rhythmic place first, and I told one of the kids like, yo, I want to learn how to surf. He was like, but bro, you guys don't even swim, bro. Like, what do you mean you're gonna like he was giving me a public service announcement, like, excuse me, did you not know about you in the water? Which lit a real fire underneath me, and I was the last one to the party, but it just like locked me in, and I fell in love with it the first time that I stood up on a wave, for like 2 or 3 seconds. It was my first spiritual exchange. Like it was the first time I felt a connection to God, goddess, the universe. And I remember coming up out of the water screaming at the top of my lungs at 16, like viscerally being like, ah. And that was it. My whole life went in that direction. And I happened to have moved to a town in which was the epicenter of the culture, the industry, brands, magazines, and any desires or that I had to like try to please my parents, from like as far as like going to school, etc. That all went out the window. I'm chasing the thing. And long story short, I ended up getting a job at Transworld Snowboarding and Skateboarding magazine as an intern. I found people who were artists and writers and graphic artists and had all photographers, incredible skill sets, who also were not good enough to be pro, but wanted to be a part of this thing, and were shaping and communicating this culture that was under construction to the world pre-internet, right? So magazines were valuable, and the only people who cared about the sports were the people who were doing them. And I entered in at this golden time, and I found like a parachute, like a tent under which like I didn't have to feel like a weirdo that I didn't want to become a square and get a job and just be safe. Like I wanted to keep pursuing how this made me feel, but also figure out how to live. And that kind of began my journey. And it was within that space of answering phones and then doing sales at brands and then getting into like marketing and team stuff with athletes that I found my voice. I was able to sort of find this, I had this ability to communicate what was happening, not just in like the bro language, but I could really explain it to people who didn't know anything about it. And I think it was because I had come from another world and it wasn't generational for me. So yeah, it was like I found this tent where I didn't have to feel strange for pursuing what I think a lot of people around me thought were immature, juvenile, pursuits. Like I knew that it was a lifestyle. As soon as I started surfing and then skating, and then I started snowboarding 6 months later, like I knew that like this is how I wanted to live. And there was no idea of this like being a season in my life.
It was just your life.
Yeah, this is how I want to live. And so finding the magazine and then finding people who had built professions and also like were interweaving the arts into it, which was so dope. It was like, okay, I've found my people, but then I had to find what my role in the band was.
And it's so funny because so many of us have had that spiritual awakening when we're in the water, realizing that we're a part of something bigger, the vastness of it, the connection to it.
It was super, yeah. Especially as a teenager, you're going through all the things, right? I had an artist father who also was an addict, who was brilliant, but had his issues. I had a stepfather who I was constantly in a war with, and these two sort of competing for who I was going to, who they were competing as to who could say that I was, in their image. And I'm trying to forge and find my identity and my image. And the ocean was the only place that I could go that as soon as I would duck dive the first wave, silence. Everything that's happening on the earth was gone. And now you're just sitting and floating in this like depth of connection. I always tell people like riding waves and surfing it's this much of it.
Right.
For me, I think sometimes, which I love the freedom of harnessing the energy and pushing the envelope and being on this fine line between ultimate joy and the ocean trying to kill you. But it's when you paddle out and you're sitting in the water in between sets, observing, whether it be the sky, the horizon, dolphins who might pop up next to you, just zoning out and getting in tune with all that water within your body, connecting, like with and you're sitting in the main element that makes you up. Something's taking place because it just, and I think that's the thing that, and it's a similar type feeling when I'm in the mountains. But yeah, the water is really that strongest place for it.
It's the strongest. And the purpose of water is not only to keep us alive, but it's part of the healing. And I was thinking about it right now when you were talking. Something that just popped up was that, this conversation about masculinity and manhood. One of the few, if only, spaces that men could cry are in the shower or in the water. Because no one knows you're crying.
Or on planes.
Planes.
I think for some reason when I watch movies on planes, bro, I'm done. And I think it's because you're in a space that you're not in control of. You're at 35,000 feet in a tin can with engines that at any point, like, the shit can be gone, and it's confined.
So it's acceptable it's almost suspended reality.
It's suspended reality, and you have no choice but to relinquish all control.
Oh, yeah.
You're not driving.
That's true.
And I was watching, I decided to watch the Mr. Rogers Tom Hanks movie, which I never got around to watching. Bro, I was on that plane on Saturday. I was wrecked. I cried most of the movie.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know the storyline, which was there was the woman, I forget the name of the woman who directed it, but it was so brilliantly about relationship with father.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't see that coming. You just think like, oh, cool, this is going to be like, I'm going to get the arc of Mr. Rogers' life like I got in the documentary. And they're like, nah, you ready? We did that in the documentary. Let me show you who he is by the power of what this man was able to do. And bro, I wept. I wept. But anyway, yeah, water, shower, planes.
Let me ask you then this question of weeping or emotional expression, probably a better term, but we're both blessed that we had these fathers that are they're giants. My father was very instrumental in Chicano movement, impacted thousands, tens of thousands of people. Your father is an iconic South African jazz musician, played a huge role in the end of apartheid. They taught the world how to organize, maybe how to express themselves through their work. But at least for me, he didn't teach me how to be vulnerable. He didn't teach me how to cry in a Mr. Rogers movie.
Yeah.
Was that your experience, or who taught you how to be a man, the man that you are now?
It's so interesting that you say that, because my father was dynamic and beloved and had this ability to connect with any and everyone. I used to tell you that this man would literally go on stage and steal people's souls. That was his superpower. He'd just snatch your shit, take it, and then bathe it in all the ancestral sauce and then give it back to you. And you left far more curious about life, the world, and other people than before. It was masterful. But his ability to show vulnerable emotion, no. I never saw my father cry. I didn't learn that from him. I think my father cried inside. He had to flee his country when he was 19. Didn't see his father for 30 years during apartheid. Not to mention all the other shit that he went through while experiencing the trauma of watching this insidious, legalized racism slowly come into play. And then one day they flip the switch and they come and they pull up with the truck and they make your parents take everything out of their house and move them to another place where the blacks are going to live so that white people can take your house. These are all things that my father witnessed slowly as apartheid was coming online. So I think he had to learn, and I wonder, your father probably was similar, had to learn how to like shut down the surface sentiment,
like survival almost,
to survive, and internalize in ways that wasn't healthy, which I think is clearly why my father chose to self-medicate with substance and drugs in the manner that he did. I think it was a need, like it was a medicinal need for him at certain points. Not justifying it, but I understand it. I think for me, nobody taught me that. My stepfather was a rigid Puerto Rican dude who ruled our household very much with an iron fist that was rooted in the idea of an organized religion, spirituality, but we had to follow the rules. You know, I was raised a Jehovah's Witness, like out knocking on doors on Saturdays, no birthdays, all the things. And your conscience is also very much hijacked from you as far as you getting to, your free will is dictated by a fear of God. So I was in this like very interesting boat growing up where my father was worldly and doing all the things. And when I was with him, he was like, leave that shit at home. And so I got to experience more. But you're also like, and then I would come back home and feel guilty. And my mother and stepfather would work very much to sort of like almost sort of deprogram whatever I experienced with my father. So I was constantly in this pendulum, and also learned how to be very adept at pleasing everybody else. For some reason, I just was always a sensitive kid. And I felt very comfortable in my emotions. My stepfather would chastise me for them, and at times my father would. But I didn't know how to not cry. When my mother tells a story about like, I was like 4 or 5 years old and we're going someplace. I actually remember it. I'm in the car with my family, with my grandmother and my mother and stepfather, and we're at a red light, and I'm looking at this homeless woman who's clearly destitute. And I asked my mother why, if that person has a home, and my mother says that she doesn't have a home, and I lose it. I just start crying, and my mother explains how inconsolable I was and how they would always have to make sure to like shield me from seeing people who were homeless, who were in pain. I've always been sensitive, and I've never felt weird about it. Like, I don't know. Like to this day, like, you know, you would think as you get older, maybe you're going to get harder. I'm getting Charmin softer. And I think it's also too, like, you go through a lot of shit in life, and you realize how much of a fallacy this idea is that you can possibly exist and grow whilst internalizing and holding in feeling. I don't know. I think feeling is just, and it has always been like an innate part of me, and I've always I've felt comfortable that if I need to cry, like, I'm gonna get it out. Also, don't disrespect me, and especially don't disrespect those close to me. Like, if you disrespect those close to me, especially when I was younger, those tears would turn into something else. Mm-hmm. And I really had to learn. I had so much angst that I was battling with because of like not knowing who I was, constantly trying to please everybody else, that if I got pushed the wrong way, I would flash on people. But then after I flashed on people, I would go and cry. If I lost my temper, if I got in a fight or whatever, like, I would usually cry afterwards.
It's interesting. When you were talking the whole time, I kept looking at this Octavia Butler Parable of the Sower book. And the main character is a young Black woman whose superpower is that she's so emotionally connected that she feels other people's pain.
To the point where it might kill her.
Correct. Where when you were talking about that story when your mom, that's literally what I was thinking about. And that her parents at the time had to protect her the same way your mom did. And
imagine what it was like for me when I read that book.
Crazy.
I was like, it gave me chills when
you saw yourself.
I saw myself in her.
Yeah. And ironically, I would have probably argued like all of us are her. We've just been deprogrammed and desensitized by the structure and the system to run away from that which is who we are.
Yeah.
And it's just profound because this issue, when having conversations with men, this issue about, oh, I feel comfortable crying, but don't get it twisted. I'll still roll up. And it's almost like we have to say that, because if we're not, then it's like we're not man enough, you know? And
don't let this fool you.
right.
Like, what is that?
But then at the same time, you know, the science shows that those people, I'm not even putting gender on it, but those people that are able to cry, their neurons and their ability to think rationally, expansively, imaginatively is way more than those that keep it in.
I did not know that.
Yeah, because you're connected to source. You're connected to self in a very profound way that allows you to be more communicative and expansive. So, you know, for me, back to the water, back to the mountains, back to that. Do you think that was part of, because we're so connected to the land, we are land-based people, but do you think that was part of you just being, or like that person that was comfortable in being that expressive with their emotions?
I think it was about having a space, getting to play in these spaces and be your entire self, but there's no rules.
Right.
Like, whatever style you have as a skater, that's it.
That's it.
You can invent your own tricks. That's it. You want to go out and take a slam, you can do so with knee pads, with a helmet, or not. You're going to get respect either way. But are you pursuing this sort of open source creative space as we reinterpret what a pool is, or a staircase, or a ledge, or a picnic table? I was fascinated by that, and this freedom to express in these spaces that they're not designed for. Same thing in the mountains, right? You're there at the top of this mountain. How you choose to get down, you have the same endpoint as everyone else, but how you do it is going to be completely different, and no one's going to be like, hey, you were supposed to make this turn. And within the ocean, it was like this very, very sort of fluid version of what that is. But again, it is open sourced freedom, and within these spaces of play, it's also self-expression. It's art, it's style, it's flair,
Rhythm, all that.
it's rhythm. And they were all places of necessary outlets for me to find self-discovery and to build identity, in which no one's telling me who and how I'm supposed to be. I didn't have to worry about pleasing anybody,
right,
in any of them.
As I'm getting older, hearing you speak is as if I'm speaking, because I had that same experience in those subcultures that allowed me to be free and allowed me to be. The only time I did feel free was when I was there, whether it was with, you know, the punk rock scene or the surf scene or the skate scene, because of what you're expressing. Like, we were all misfits, and we were normalizing being different because we were the same because we're different. The Zapatistas say we are all the same because we are different.
Yeah.
We can create a world where many worlds exist. And in the dominant society, that wasn't it. You had to be this cookie cutter version of what a young man was supposed to be or whatever it was. But in these other spaces, you were able to be fully expressive, and however that looked.
Yeah.
Pink hair if you wanted, nose ring, whatever it was. And I've always gravitated towards that form of just freedom. And then it makes sense because then the mountains, the wind, the water, I mean, that's a purest expression of freedom. You know?
Yeah.
They say, like, the trees just give oxygen. That's their role. They don't say, oh, maybe today I'm going to
chill.
You know, this is what Jose always tells me. No, they just, that's what their role is.
Yeah.
But there's a freedom in that. So yeah, when we're talking about this issue of the subcultures that really, I feel like my life's purpose is trying to make the subcultures their normal.
Yeah.
Right? Because I want folks to have that same feeling that I do, or that we've continue to have. I guess my question is two-part. One is, what are the greatest lessons you've learned from nature? And then I'll go into the second one, but I'll sit on that one for a moment.
I think my favorite lessons that I learned from nature is nature could give a fuck about where you came from or how you got there. Nature's only concerned by the manner in which you show up. It is like the most indiscriminate landscape to play in. And you have to respect it. Like nature will really like kick your ass if you're disrespectful, kill you. But also within those spaces, like you can experience such radical joy. You get to learn how to sit in like required presence, like depth of presence that will keep you alive, but then in turn like puts you in this space where you get to experience levels of joy that you didn't even know were possible. And they might be in like a 3 to 5 second window, but as you go on for the rest of your life and reflect on what happened in that space, it feels like it was forever.
And it was.
Yeah, because the construct of time is just dissolved, and you find out in that moment like, oh, when you close your eyes and you think about like the best barrels you've gotten, being inside the tube of a wave, like that 2, 3, 4 seconds, it feels like, and then this happened, and then this happened, and this happened, and this happened. And if someone was to watch it, they'd be like, no, all that didn't happen. And you're like, yes, it did. And there's something so freeing and I think humbling about that. And I think also like as Black and brown men in this conversation, and just marginalized people in general, the absurdity, especially in this country, that they thought they'd be able to gatekeep that shit from us.
When we're the actual original inventors of all
all
sports.
Of it. Like Black people and African peoples and brown peoples like have been frolicking joyfully and in nature. Check the tape, check the receipts of all of our ancestors. Frolicking with wisdom. And the idea that would be stripped of us, beaten out of us, that our bodies would be conscripted solely for the purpose of work in confined spaces or in limited spaces in nature, and that the idea of like recreation and joy and just being would be reserved for the few. Like the idea of just having access to lots of space, that being like a default white idea, and convincing people of that.
Yeah.
Like most people like are very unaware that on the back end, of segregation, like that was one of the last walls they put up was like, all right, the parks, the national parks,
the swimming
pools, the beaches, like the manners in which those tried to be carved out as like, no, these are for us. And then we being taught it and having it beaten to us enough that we believe it.
Yeah.
So that like, I'm sure you had the same experience, but I don't know about you. Like when my parents moved to Carlsbad, very white, a little bit Mexican. Oceanside was adjacent to Camp Pendleton, to the Marine base, and so you actually had more Black people there that were in the Marines. I remember the first time I was walking, like to go paddle out and surf at Oceanside Pier, and like there was a bunch of like handful of young Black men that looked like me, and they looked at me like I had come from a spaceship. There was silence for a moment, and then they had a choice. And they went to the, of course, natural default. Like, yo, why are you doing that white shit for? Like, and then proceed to laughter, jokes, etc. And you like, and just go and surf. Right. And getting that. So now you're getting it from like both ends. But coming back to your question, like once you play in those spaces, it's like joy and then anger at like how fucking dare you? How dare they? The audacity to get us to think that this is not for us.
I mean, I was thinking of two things. One of my favorite writers, thought leaders, is Adrienne Marie Brown. And she always says, we're living in someone else's imagination. Someone said that it was okay for this to be reserved for the few, like you framed it, and told that lie so much that we actually started to believe it. We gave up our power to do that. And everything I was thinking about your story about seeing the Black military man. Growing up in Ventura, it was a predominantly white environment for me. And I've always been seen as Mexican and something else. Because I have light skin privileged. I'm not as dark as my cousins.
Also, you're not doing what everyone else does. So we have to make you something else to explain it.
We have to explain it. And interesting enough, in hearing you, being born in Oxnard, the surfers in Oxnard, if you weren't from Oxnard, they wouldn't let you on the beach. It was just period. Like, I always joke around where you live, like the digital nomads come around, and it's for everyone, so I'm not judging. But I'm just saying, back then, you'd be fighting. Like, this was their territory, this was their waves, that was it. Ventura wasn't as hard, but it was almost like I was running towards whiteness because it was a white sport. Because, everything around me was saying, hey, dark is dangerous, brown is ugly. So guess what, Mike? Go dye your hair blonde. Guess what, Mike? Go surf. Be the only person of color in the waves.
You think I didn't peroxide my shit?
That's what I'm saying.
Thinking that those kids were going to accept me?
When they were never going to.
They used to introduce me at parties or whatever, like, oh, this is our friend. First of all, like, I only got the nickname Sal because when I got to California, Selema was so confusing to people. To them, they're like, we got to do something about this. And one day a kid walked up to me and he was like, yo, Sal, bro, we thought about it. You're Sal, dude. Yeah. And then you're walking down the hallway and everyone's like, what's up, Sal? Yeah, Sal. What's up, Sal? And you're like, what? And okay. And then I remember the first time that a kid introduced me and said, this is Sal. He's cool. He's more like us. He's not a regular black guy. He's more like us. By patting me on the back. Yeah. And everyone being like, yeah, oh, that's cool. You surf? You do our shit? Oh, that's cool. And very much making me feel like I should feel lucky and grateful that they gave me permission. I don't want to go too far off, but like, let me tie this full circle just to sort of like explain how that sticks with you for your whole life. During 2020, when it briefly looked like we were going to be allowed to have conversations in and around race in America, and everyone was getting checked if white people, for the first time, if you were gatekeeping your place, there was a reckoning taking place. And we were having a larger conversation about race and surfing and in action sports. And it seemed there was some productive work that was being done. But I started to get the DMs from the people who were salty, who are, now I guess would be MAGA. And people just being like, how dare you? I can't believe that this is who you're choosing to be. Like, we let you in and this is how you repay us. Wow. People who I knew. I just don't understand why you got to say all this because I've known you this whole time. I never saw anything happen to you. So it didn't happen. You're making this up to capitalize on what's going on. But come on, bro, you're ours. How dare you choose to show up in the entirety of your blackness that makes me after what we've done for you. You wouldn't have this career if it wasn't for us. This is what people were, and it's like, wait, I've been working my ass off. I never had an opportunity to be mediocre at any of this. I had to come in with and give people no excuse. Yeah, it's just it's a trip how you find yourself in these spaces that like are giving you ultimate freedom. Like I said, like, you know, that you get to be the entirety of yourself in nature, that these little gates that they put up create this whole other thing where you find yourself still fighting for identity and existence when all you're really asking for is to just be. And I'm sorry that, you know, my version of what brownness is explodes your brain because you were stripped from being able to attach any type of, you know, imagination or creativity to like what I could be endlessly while you're allowed to be whatever. And I think that was, yeah, it's a trip to still find myself reckoning with it all these years later, but at the same time being encouraged because there's a whole nother generation now of, you know, of kids who they can't be bothered with any of it, and they're starting to show up in droves.
I don't want to go away until I just honor and release the pain of friends of ours that we come up with that when they're able to show who they really are, it's painful.
It's painful when you have to let them go. It's
painful. And because these are, you know, childhood friends and sometimes business partners and Oof. And you know, people see the outside world like with you, like, oh my God, you're the voice for 25 years and you're an Australian and all this, and they don't see like all the micro that aren't ever micro. I hate the one that people say microaggression. Bro, an aggression is an aggression.
I didn't stab you. I just cut you with this blade.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, I'm still bleeding.
I'm still bleeding.
You know, like people think you need to get the knife has to go in and get twisted.
No.
It's like there's a reason why box cutters carried from back here, you didn't even feel. You didn't even know someone cut you. You want to talk about micro? Like, whoosh, they're gone, walking in the other direction. And you're like, I'm still bleeding.
Right.
Those are the hardest ones sometimes to heal.
Yeah. That's why I said the wound healed, but the scar is there.
Yeah.
And in my kind of organized background, I got to remind myself, hey, that's a system, that's pain talking, but it's still a real emotion.
Mm.
And then when you're talking about the vestiges of racism and domination and control, I mean, I still go around saying, hey, I'm Mike. Because when they were calling you Sal, my name's Michael. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Mike is the cooler, wider thing to be. Hey,
right.
You're just like my cousin Mike. Cool. And it's this straddling of worlds that we didn't invent. And when we're young, we're like, oh, I guess I have to play that part.
You just want acceptance. You're not even thinking about all that.
Mm-mm.
So like, when you're a kid, when you're a teenager, you want acceptance, and you don't. What I learned, and it sounds like you learned as well. I didn't realize how much of myself I was giving up.
Yeah.
And when I finally recognized how much I had changed and how much I had allowed these people to shape the parameters of how I got to exist in this thing that was mine, it was really embarrassing.
Mm.
And I had to make some big changes because I had allowed behaviors and things to get said around me that were, when I think about it now, I don't even know like what sort of override button was allowing it to exist, because you're trying to stay safe. You think you're creating safety for yourself. But yeah, it took me like in my early 20s to sort of like, wait,
snap out.
No, I'm gonna be You're going to see me, but you're going to see the entirety of me.
Do you think this is, I'm asking you and asking me at the same time, but obviously as an adolescent, you're just in life, we all want to belong. Obviously it's hyper, it's like more as an adolescent, you want to fit in, but I'm just thinking about our fathers again, because my father was unapologetically Mexican. He was like proud to be Chicano. He was teaching Chicano studies for 40 years. Like he was all about it. So in my mind, I guess the question to you and to myself is like, do you think were we rebelling with our fathers by saying, hey, I'm actually going to run away from something I can't run away from? That's the lie. I can't run away from who I am. But do you think some of that was playing into it as well?
Absolutely. I was sprinting from everything my father was. Because it didn't seem attainable for me. It seemed like a lot of work and trouble. And I was also being raised in this thing that was telling me that even though I loved my father and I marveled at him, that I couldn't possibly want to emulate him. Like, and so it was this duality. Like, oh, he's amazing, but he's also bad. And so I was sprinting for what away from all of that. The irony in all that would be that like this thing that I found myself in, I would end up requiring me to step into and embody all the traits that he'd given to me. Because I didn't know that I was going to end up doing similar work or work at the same frequency in a different space. But that's what happened. I was just pursuing the joy of the thing. Right. And then next thing you know, you find yourself being somewhat of a representative for a larger conversation, and then finding yourself up against that friction, and then learning that the friction is actually a sign that you're doing things right.
Right. Let me ask you, because we're both musicians and artists. I'm able to talk to my dad, or I'm asking my dad and telling my dad things I never said when he was physically alive through my book. Mm-hmm. Do you find your art and music in particular is your way of communicating with your dad things that were never said when he was here?
Yeah, in many ways, I think when I started to make my records, and I didn't start making my records until I was 40. Like I grew up playing music, and then when I moved to Cali, like I stopped playing sax, I stopped singing. And I always say like the surfboard became my music. The mountains became my music. But it was always this like gnawing thing within me. And I didn't tell my father I was making my first album. I was terrified that he would find out. But I also like had to do it.
Right.
And my cousin, Sonny, he and I started working on this record together, and then my uncle came over and started checking out what we were doing, and he was like, all right, this is actually legit. So he would come and play sax on some things and help us with arrangements, and he really became a great sounding board and perspective setter on this record. Little did I know that he was backdooring information to my dad, who was in South Africa. So one day my dad calls me, and my dad's sober at this point, and we've really started to foster something beautiful, like a father-son relationship that is rooted in friendship, like my best friend. Mm. And he says, I'm coming to the States. He says, yeah, man, I'm excited to see you. I'm excited to come and hang with you. But, I hear you've been working on a thing, man. What's going on? I was like, I remember like just, it felt cold in my body. Like, and I was like, yeah, I'm making a record. And he said, okay. Yeah, and I remember you used to play, and you were good, but I didn't know that you wanted it. And this is, I think when I look back on this conversation, we're saying so much without saying everything. Right. And I kind of bypassed like saying more, and I was like, yeah, it just felt like the right time, and I had some time. And he said, so okay, so when I come over, I'm gonna hear it, right? I said, okay, yeah, I'll get you. We were just finishing up the album, so he comes. My dad loved to eat, like that was his. He looked at food like he did music, like he could hear the seasoning and the good and like flavor the way he heard music, like that they were a similar feeling for him. So it was always my responsibility to like try and blow his mind. We never ate average, if that meant like going to like little Ethiopia and finding like the dope spot. Like he wanted to be at eye level with the people and eat good food, or just like blow his mind. So this is like the beginnings of Jelena in Venice. And I knew Travis. He was from Venice. He, lived around the corner. I said, I'm going to take you for some food, Dad. So anyway, we go and we have this meal, and he's happy as can be. We're out on the street. It's like, that was the meanest, man. Thank you. Wow. I can't wait till we come back and eat this again. That guy, tell your friend Travis he should be arrested. That was always his compliment for the chef. You should go to jail for cooking like this. But we're standing on the street corner, happy. And then it gets real quiet, and he says, so, man, do you have it? Do you have the thing? And so now we're doing a drug deal on the corner. And I reach into my jacket. I'd burnt a CD for him. I hand it to him like I'm shaking. And he looks at it and he says, okay, I'll be in touch. And then just turns around and walks away. And I watched him walk away to his rent-a-car and drive off. And I didn't hear from him. The next day. Killing me. And then a day and a half later, I had missed a call from him. This is back when you used to check your voicemail. And I get the most incredible voicemail from my dad. He says, man, I've been listening to this record, man. And it's so beautiful. I said, he says, I'm sorry I didn't call you yesterday, but I just had to keep listening because I never got to hear you like this before. He says, if I could sing like you, I would never play my horn again. I'm just so happy, and I'm sorry that I missed out that this is what you had to give. And then at the very end, he says, my only problem is that I'm not fucking on it. So, if you make another fucking record, man, you better make sure I'm fucking playing on it, okay? I love you. Call me. And I think it was in that moment that I realized that I had made it for him in the first place. And I didn't know that I needed him to see how much of him resided in me. But I just wanted him to know that I've been paying attention, man. My earliest memories with my father were standing, were being in the club, with him on the weekends when he had me. My dad wasn't taking me to the park. He was taking me to the club, and I'm watching him put on shows and till 2, 3, 4 in the morning, staying for the second set. And I was studying him the whole time. I was mesmerized. I didn't even know he was, to me, he wasn't even from this planet. And so that shit was being so printed into me. And then it made me realize that the disturbance within me, this thing that I had to get out, was that shit. And that was the only way that I was going to find my equilibrium. And I wanted him to know that I'd been paying attention.
And he did.
And that he had done his job.
Did you guys ever talk about it towards the end when he was starting to get
sick?
Mm-hmm.
No. I think we made a record together before he passed. I honored him when we were doing the second album. I called him. I said, "You said you wanted to be on this shit, man." He said, "I'll be there in 2 weeks." Packed his shit, 73 years old, on a plane from South Africa, came to the studio, hung out for 2 weeks, made a dope record together. And I think it was the healing was in the music for us. When my dad got sick, he had prostate cancer. It was for the second time. He was so disappointed in himself that he had gotten sick, that it had gotten away from him, that he felt shame to the point where I was there by his side, lying in bed with him as he was moving towards his transitioning. But we had these experiences together where like he just wanted to kick it normal. We were not going to have a Tuesdays with Maury. That shit was not happening. And I remember the first time that like he caught me looking at him for too long. What the fuck are you looking at? Don't look at me like that. You know? And there was so much that I wanted to say in that moment. But I recognized that that was my shit, not his. And that if this is how he wanted to go and he just wanted me to be around and to hang, and that we weren't going to fucking get all that other shit, that was okay. And that it was taking place within us without words.
It was a feeling.
It was a feeling. But it's such a crazy thing, man, to watch someone that you have only viewed as immortal wither away. Like to watch them disintegrate into the next space is a very radical thing. I have had times in the wake of my father's final passing where I was like, why couldn't he have just gotten hit by a car? Why couldn't he have just not had like an immediate event? I was trying to justify like what, like that suddenly being thrown into the grief thing, that somehow that might have made it better, because watching him disintegrate for 2 years was heavy, man. It was really, really heavy. I treasure it now. And I also don't wish it on anybody, you know?
Do you talk to your father still?
Yeah. I've seen him.
Yeah.
I've seen him.
Is there anything left unsaid outside of the music that you haven't told him?
I had an experience. I had a medicine journey 2 years ago. And it was with the grandmother, ayahuasca, and my dad came to me, and he was magnificent, like astral, regal, magnificence. And I'm seeing him, and like it's just a level of joy and wholeness of him that I was just in awe. And then within my experience, he embodied me, came inside my body. And we laughed so hard. Like we laughed in concert. I felt it in all of my cells in a way that was like, I felt him. And it was the most beautiful, like, everything is cool, man. You're good. I see you. You're fantastic. And don't worry about me. Like, I'm good. And I remember when it was time for him to go, when he left, I felt him physically leave me. And I went from laughing harder than I ever laughed in my life. Because that's what we did together. We just fucking laughed, man.
My favorite thing at that panel was the picture of him laughing with you at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we did. We were always laughing together. And the pain in that moment when I felt him leave. Oh, I cried, Michael. Oh, I wept. I wept in a way I didn't even know was possible. Like, it was like this crazy pendulum swing. But in the back end of grieving that I didn't get to continue to hold on to that feeling was this peace and this joy that I've been able to carry ever since. And I still talk to him. And I feel like he, man, especially in the last year, it'll be 8 years since my father passed. But in the last year, the manner in which I've felt him being like a little more treble, a little more bass, bring up the middies here, and how I'm getting clarity into what the next chapter of my existence is, so that I don't have to follow. I don't have to learn some of the things in the way that he did. I feel like he has actively came in and just been like, here, 3 degrees to the right.
Guiding.
Tune it down here. An octave up over here. That's what I feel from him now. And yeah, man, it's it feels like it's still very much a powerful togetherness that we have. And then the linear you finds yourself grieving still the lack of their ability to have their physical presence in this dimension.
Right.
But it's far more now of like I feel like I'm growing a sort of a spiritual exoskeleton that he's 3D printing onto me from the beyond.
So it's been 10 years since my dad left, and we're talking about you meeting him in that ceremony. My dad hasn't come to me in dreams in, I want to say, like 8 years. And last Thursday for Thanksgiving, I woke up and I just felt normal, but my dad came in my dream. And they say in dreams it's very rare for the ancestor to speak, but I had a full convo. And then I woke up like this sense of joy that you're describing. And it didn't hit me that I wasn't real. And then you can't go back to the dream, but then I was like, well, what is he trying to tell me from there? And it was the first time since his funeral that my aunt, my cousins, my uncle went to have Thanksgiving with my mom. Last time they were at the house I grew up in Ventura was 10 years ago at his funeral. Mm-hmm. And that's when my dad came to me. And I spent all day today knowing I was going to see you. It's interesting. My dad immigrated to East LA, my mom's from San Jose. So in my household, music-wise, my mom was into like Tower of Power and, Marvin Gaye. And my dad was into like the Midnighters and the Four Tops. And it was like this mix. But my dad loved jazz. And I was searching, bro, and I'm going to find it. He had your dad's record. And I'm going to give it to you when I find it. And I looked for it, and I was like, there's got to be a reason why. I'm talking to my dad literally today when people are setting up. Well, I couldn't find the record, but what do you want me to give to you, right? So I go to a record store, and now it all makes sense. The record that I chose, or that chose me to give to you from your own dad. Where'd it go? I had it right here. Oh. Yes. Record.
Oh, man. That's the one, too, bro.
For those that are listening, it's The Emancipation of Hugh Masekela. But till right now, the picture you showed that got me so excited was literally the same smile.
Yeah. It's so cool. You see the flags, right?
Yeah.
Like he was such a like this is such an act of rebellion. This whole shit with him in the top hat as Lincoln, like what are you talking about? Yeah, man. What's really, first of all, thank you.
But if this isn't the symbol of the conversation we're having,
this is everything. This is everything. It's such a trip. It's such a trip. And this is one of my favorite photos of him.
Yeah.
Right here, just like singing from the depths of his existence. He was so cool. I was in a relationship that ended badly, and my former partner kept all of the records.
Well, then we'll start the record collection.
So I had to start all of my dad's records as a way to like be like, And so I've been like slowly rebuilding my collection, and this is one of the ones that I'm missing.
Oh, wow.
So it's a divine trip, man. But yeah, the right one found us, and I can't thank you enough. This is so cool, man.
Oh, thank you.
Like, yeah, the fact that this man literally like he's been in America for like 5 minutes at this point, and this is the subversive ass, an African as Lincoln shit. And I know the label must have been like, what are you doing, Hugh? I mean, we're on a roll here. We just made Grazing in the Grass. Like, we're good. You don't need to do this. And he would have been like, fuck you. We're doing it. And that smile says it all.
But the crazy thing to me is when you were talking about the heartfelt moment of the voice message of your dad, and how he said, man, if I would have had your voice. That's the only photo I've ever seen of him singing.
Yeah.
He's not playing the instrument.
Yeah. Yeah. I still can't believe that. And I always thought that I think my dad sings really, really well. He's got a different voice. And I was always bummed because my voice couldn't be as like, I couldn't get that guttural, raw, the pain. But I didn't live what he lived.
Right.
So how could I have that voice? It's going to come out different in me.
Mm.
And once I made peace with that, that's when I actually felt comfortable in getting it out. Because the reason why I didn't make music for 25 years was because Hugh Masekela exists. Like, no one's trying to hear from me. I felt like it was always going to be in comparison to him.
Mm.
And I didn't want to fuck with the name, and like, and I also just thought I wasn't allowed, like, where could I stand? And then the idea that you would think that you need to be in comparison to your father is insane. And yeah, when he said that gave me that was like all the permission that I didn't know that I ever needed.
Beautiful.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
No, thank you.
That is extremely, extremely kind. And like I said, it's one of the ones that I'm missing.
Every episode ends with these things we call the Sacred Five, which is our opportunity for folks that are watching or listening to take practical things. I ask you like 5 questions, you answer in a sentence or a word. Okay. I wanted to share this, and then I got something else.
Be succinct, Selema.
No succinct, whatever needs to come.
Okay.
But the first question is, name 3 things that make you feel safe, connected, and whole.
The ocean. Love. And my friends and family.
Beautiful. What's one song, book, or prayer that brings you back home to yourself?
Stevie Wonder. Well, I'm just gonna say Stevie Wonder, Songs in the Key of Life. Like when I need to like sit with myself, I just put that record on, and go away. Like inhabit this universe and some others, and then like settle back in me. Yeah. So that would be the music. And then you said
a book or a prayer.
A book. It's, what's funny is I just got done rereading The Parable of the Sower, and then The Talents. And besides the fact that they're so eerily
happening now,
it's all eerily now.
Right.
I feel like those books have been like a real safe space for every time I read those books, my imagination is able to, it's like the first time, but I get something different from them. And it also, it feels like it helps prepare me for whatever the fight is today, to not run. Because it's very easy, especially now that we're adults and have means. I have days where I'm just like, yo, can I tap out? When I was in Australia, I was like, could I come back? Like, I like this idea of not feeling like the government and this country has always felt like it's on my chest, but I've never felt it like it's in my airway. Like they're really trying to constrict us now, But yeah, those books, they just remind you that there's always a way.
Yeah.
There's always a way.
Always a way.
There's always a way, and it was a method. And my prayer, my present sort of what has been my prayer and my daily affirmation is very simple. And it's just a little bit better today. That's my prayer.
That's your prayer.
I think I was in such a quest for or thinking that I needed to be perfect all the time. Especially when you're in a front-facing job and you're you're not like everybody else, so you have to be great. I thought that in turn had to apply to life, and that's not attainable in any way, shape, or form, and it will damage the fuck out of you to try. And so I've really learned a little bit better today.
So the next question is, what's one daily ritual practice that grounds you?
Surfing.
You do it every day? Try to.
I try to when I'm home.
I want to go live with you, man.
Yeah. If I'm home,
yeah,
I'm at the ocean.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes it's not even the act of surfing.
Yeah, just going in the water.
Sometimes it's just being at the beach, talking about the surf, talking shit. It's incredibly, incredibly grounding. And if it's not surfing, then it's just movement.
Okay, cool.
Movement.
What's one small action that listeners can take today on their healing journey?
Self-love.
Okay. And the last one, I think you kind of said it, but what's a one-line blessing or quote that inspires you?
You're never going to have it all figured out.
Cool. Selema.
That is me. They used to say, Selema, who was always in a dilemma. That's how my teachers would lovingly open up the parent-teacher conference and then go down the long list.
Well, I usually spend this time to just reflect back some things that really touched me. Besides the fact that when I find the other record for your collection, I'll have to come over to the beach and cook in honor of our fathers who both love to eat.
Say less.
So that's for sure.
The Traeger Iron 880 is waiting for you.
All right. And I'll make some nice Mexican carne asada or something. Go. There's so much I want to share. 3 things. My life's always in threes. The first is you find freedom in being yourself, and that you can continue to be yourself even when you're a public-facing person, even when you have the resources to go abroad or go other places. And that's like, to me, the truest definition of a man is to be comfortable in his own skin. And so first, I just want to affirm you just being you.
Thank you.
The second thing is the strength to be emotionally expressive and to hold all the emotions. That's the purest form of manhood that there is. Because you're going to live longer. But like the water, that's the part of the purification process. And the last thing I want to share not even from me, but from your father. Your father's greatest work of art, his greatest song he composed, his greatest gift to the world is who I'm sitting across from. And you are his love that is his legacy. You are his love that's immortal. And if I could speak on his behalf, I would just say, I'm so proud of you and I love you. And thank you for being the son I always wanted to have. And I hope that my son at some point can say the same thing about me. And when I look at you, I'm like, that's the standard in all of its imperfections and all of its perfections. And so just thank you for being who you are. Thank you for carrying a powerful name forward. Thank you for opening doors. Thank you for wearing the Abraham Lincoln beard in your own right. And I gained a lot from this conversation. So thank you for being so willing and so present to be here.
Man, that is about as beautifully humbling a statement that has ever been made about me. I receive it. There was a time in which I would have been unable to, and I thank you. I can't really put into words what that means, and I didn't know that I needed to hear it in that manner. So, thank you very much, man.
Yeah.
And this, I knew this was gonna be good, but fuck. Yeah, the gift that we got to be connected this year is definitely a divine one, man. And I'm just sitting in this moment, like marveling at it yet again, but in a way that I could have never comprehended. So thank you, my brother. Yeah, thank you.
Sacred Lessons is a production of iHeart's My Cultura podcast network, Sacred Lessons Media, and the Prince Group. For more of your favorite shows, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.